The Big Hash is one of the youngest rappers to ever do it. He's got a massive impact and a huge fan base. From Soweto to Pretoria, from high school dropout to SA's youngest to do it at such a huge scale. Let's get into it. This is the story of The Big Hash. By age 18, The Big Hash had collaborated with major artists like A-Reese, Ricky Rick, Tsecho, Flame, and Frank Casino. He has 3 widely recognized projects to date, namely, The Life and Times of a Teenage Influencer, The Big Hash Theory, and most recently, his chart-topping LP called Young. He was born in Pretoria April 8th in 2000 and briefly grew up in Soweto from 04 to 09. Here, he lived with his grandma. A few years later, in 2010, he moved back to Pretoria to live with his mom. The Big Hash's musical influences are clearly from a wide scope. He grew up listening to hip-hop, R&B, soul ballads. Some of this was influenced by his mom and his grandma. Okay, let's dig a little deeper. The Big Hash is a weird but common story of how he got into the game. So let's jump right in. Growing up, Hash was very insecure because of how he looked. That always made him isolate himself from other kids. The boy got bullied a lot, you know? This led him to being antisocial and brought him closer to music and exposed him to artists like Coldplay, Drizzy, M, and Childish Gambino. Apparently, he used to listen to their songs and pause to write the lyrics to understand what they were saying. Dope. Fast forward a little, and now he's in high school. Music is literally his only escape. The boy went through so much during that period, so much so that the safest space for him to let go and express his feelings and anger was through the music. Fast forward again, and the Big Hash decides to take his talent seriously. This happens when his mom could no longer afford his school fees and he had to downgrade from a private school to a public one. The typical story of an African child. Downgrades. Hash felt like the system was flawed at the public school. He ended up having too much time to do nothing. So much so that by the time his mom bounced back and sent him back to private school, it was already too late. The boy already had a few songs recorded with the homies and was way too in love with the process that he couldn't focus on anything else but writing his own joints. Hectic. Okay, let's fast forward for the third and last time. His grades dropped. He flunked all his exams, like literally all. This was in the second term in grade 11 in 2017. Hash decided it was time to move on. He dropped school entirely to work on his musical career. His mom was livid. The music's still fire though. So how did he pop like nationally? Okay, let me tell you the story. Hash got one of the biggest cosigns you can get in the game in SA. This was by no other than the dad of rap in SA. The guy that wears nightwear as day wear. The legend, Dariki Flippin' Mercado. Hash kinda tells the story of how he linked with Mercado in an article he recently did with SA Hip Hop Mag. So here's the story from the beginning. Hash was chilling in a studio on a random day around early mid-April 2018, literally scrolling through IG stories. Then he bumps into his homie Breezy the Savage. If you don't know Breezy, he's big, but low-key big, you know? The boy has worked on a couple joints you might know. He co-produced Money Calling alongside Dals and produces for a lot of SoundCloud rappers like Gator, etc. Now back to the story. Get it? IG story? Okay, never mind. So Breezy's bumping the beat in the background and Hash heard it. That ish was up for sale. Hash wanted it and he needed it. And thank God he got it. Hash texted Breezy and begged him for it. Breezy went through to Hash's studio a little later that night and they vibed, you know? Breezy left the zippers for the joint and Hash cooked up a quick snippet with only one verse and the other totally empty. So hold that thought. A few weeks later, it was time for Back to the City. Ricky had gotten word about Hash, so his plan was to pull him up on stage to kinda introduce him to the game and literally put him on right there and there. Minutes before they went on stage though, Hash played Ricky the snippet he did weeks before on Breezy's beat. Apparently, Ricky kept asking for the song to be put on repeat while he freestyled in an open space right next to his bus. Soon after their performance, Ricky invites Hash out again at a popular nightclub in Johannesburg, previously known as Kong and now Sumo. Ricky's team is there and Hash's entire team is there too. The bottles are flowing, the dallies are flowing, it's a vibe, you know? Later in the night, Makado eventually decides to pull him on the side. They had a brief chat. Okay, a chat about what? You know, the typical club chat. Bro, you dope, let's work. Yo, you dope too, let's exchange some numbers, you know, maybe we might work on something. But this is Ricky we're talking about. He pulled him to the side for a chat that was real. During the chat, Ricky asked if he could hop on the song a week before it was scheduled to release. Days later, he sent back his verse and the video was shot and literally everything dropped days later. The song they dropped is what we know as Dark Horse. Yep, the one Breezy produced. Shout out to Breezy for believing in the boy. And also shout out Ricky for the video. Let's be honest, the video was dope. That ish really put the boy on. Facts. Let's talk about what the video did for his brand. Preach. Ever since the music video, a lot of people can put their face to the music because it was literally his first official music video, and every time it comes on, the whole room lights up every time he performs it. It's almost a must for him to perform the record, so he does. Most promoters almost demand that he jams it. They want a piece of that cake, you know, for these shows. Okay, let's talk about his affiliation with the Wrecking Crew. A lot of people seem to see him running with the crew often and mostly assume that he's part of the team that used to include Flame, Echo, Reese, Mash, and many more. This was of course before their dramatic split in April 2019. I might also want to add that the Wrecking Crew doesn't really exist anymore. They literally got split into two. The other side, Echo, Flame, Mellow, and a couple of other Oaks, and they call themselves the Lean Team. On the other side, Rubber Band Gang, Reese, Mash, etc. So Hash isn't part of the crew but calls most of them his brothers. They literally put him on and showed him some love way before he got picked up by Ricky and Frank Casino. Shout out to the crew. So if he's not part of the crew, who's he with? So Hash is part of a young team of upcoming rappers, producers, and all-round creatives. They call themselves the Internet Wave. The team also consists of his main producer and engineer, 808X. Okay, let's talk about some of his favorite SA rappers. Top 5s only. During an interview with SA Hip Hop Mag, Hash said Nasty C is definitely part of his top 5. A Reese is in there too. Quote, "The boy's music doesn't belong on this side of the world. At all. We don't deserve it." Preach, Hash, preach. Shane Eagle is also in there, Anati and AKA. In no particular order. In other news, he had an interview at TA Radio with DJ Honcho. He spoke music, his ups and downs, and his career moves, etc. Somebody actually sent through a WhatsApp asking how they could possibly get Hash on a joint. Hash's response was that he doesn't do features if it doesn't make sense and if it's not organic. He literally doesn't care for how much money you have. So even if you got guap, bro, you can't get the record. You gotta be in studio with him somehow. Good vibes, good energy, and maybe you might get the verse, okay? Wait, does that mean a feature with Casper might be on the way? Blessings on blessings? Get it? The tweet? Okay, never mind. Yeah, let's get back to talking about the music and not the tweets. Okay, my bad, sorry boy. So, in 3, 2, 1, music. Hash has a brand new project and it's doing extremely well. It's called Young. It was highly anticipated. Actually, he wanted to drop an album straight up but decided again that as a debut drop that might be a little too much too early. Maybe that's why Young is so dope. People like Casper and Raf from Ambitious Records, Nota from Rap Life, all OGs, mess with this one. Yeah, whilst we're on Nota, I also might want to add that Nota did say on Twitter that it's a good EP, but maybe the mixing isn't up to scratch. Hash replied to that tweet and he was like, bro, you don't even know what you're talking about. Just to add one more thing, in Hash's defense, he probably doesn't even know who Nota is. And in Nota's defense, he's been doing this for quite a long time. Either way, it's a kick-ass LP and everyone loving it. I think it's safe to say that Hash is the next big thing. Maybe him and Casper might drop a record very, very soon. I don't know. Now back to the musical accolades. Young reached #1 on the R&B and hip hop charts on Apple Music when it dropped, And let's be honest, it stayed there for quite a bit. So shout out to Hash. The boy's doing well for himself. I might also want to add that maybe dropping out wasn't too bad of an idea for him after all. You're a king, bro. Make history in your upcoming one-man show later this year. Okay, that's all I got. Thank you for watching. Please hit the sub button for more content and let me know in the comment section whose story you'd like to see next. I'm DJ Honcho SA on Twitter and Honcho SA on IG. I'm out.